Now then, crew, and welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. And the saga with the Ifor Williams LT105G, my little flatbed trailer, continues. Now, there was some good news, some really good news since the last video. The wheel didn't fall off. That was a bonus. I have not yet checked to see if my backup plan, the modification that I made to the stub axle, has survived. Has the nut come loose on those dodgy threads and now resting against the fail-safe system that I put in place? We're going to find out. I have a brand new axle for the trailer. How lucky was I to find one of these in stock here in New Zealand and to get it so quickly? I'm very impressed with myself, to be fair. At the same time, we've also got the correct brake shoes for the front axle. This video is not going to cover fitting those, that's a separate video. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the axle on an Ifor Williams trailer. Here we go. Used.
You don't paint something without wiping.
Honestly. Okay, as you can see, the trailer is already on axle stands. It's nice and safe to work on. You're going to need to jack it up and use axle stands. The last thing you want is this trailer falling on you. And you know what? This trailer looks so much better on these new wheels. I am so happy. There's a little bit of play, isn't there? Wonder what's going on. Has that nut moved? I don't know. But we'll soon find out. Okay, hubcap coming off. There we go. Right, well, you can see what I did. There was a risk this nut could have broken free on the threads and just basically popped this way. So I just got a metal bar, I don't know, 10mm diameter, cut it down to I think 50mm, 55mm, and welded it onto the end of the stub axle. Now, obviously the end of the stub axle is not under any kind of load, it's not going to cause any kind of shear, but it did provide a dead stop for that nut as a fail-safe, just to keep the hub in position, because if that wasn't there and the nut came off, the whole brake drum and the wheel would have ended up in somebody's farmer's field or potentially hitting another vehicle on the road, and I couldn't allow that to happen. But I needed to use the trailer. So that was a good sort of get me home, get me to where I was going and get me home sort of repair. And I felt quite confident we weren't going to have any problems. But is there now movement on the drum side to side? There isn't. I think that nut is still tight. So next job is to cut that off with the angle grinder, slit disc, and then hopefully we're not going to have the same saga again removing this stake nut, they call that. Hopefully it's not bound up on the threads, and galled again. It seemed to go on pretty easy, it wasn't a problem. But I don't want 3 or 4 hours of work trying to remove a brand new stake nut, because I need this drum off. I need that. Excellent. I reckon that's all the weld now gone. There was 1 or 2 little places where it just touched onto the stake nut, which wasn't a bad thing. I reckon we should be able to undo that nut now. Fingers crossed. Right, big impact. Place your bets now. Can it do it? We know this tool's got 1,200 Newton meters of undoing torque, It should do it. We've only got the standard socket now. Somebody made a comment, sorry, can't remember your name, about, Andy, you need to use a single hex impact socket, and you're absolutely correct. But I don't have one. And I didn't have a chance to pick one up while I was away in the South Island. So this is my only hope. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Get the reference. Right, here we go. Oh, I really hope this is going to come off. It was torqued to 350. All right, you ready? Here we go. Yes! Right, that steak nut has to go in the bin because it's scrap. Perfect. Right, it's a bit of a clean up. I'll get all the swarf and stuff off that grease that's in there, but I reckon we'll be good to go on that one. Okay, I'm hoping now, obviously we've got to remove the brake backing plate. Don't need to take the shoes out at all. I'm hoping that I can just undo these 4 bolts that hold the brake shoe backing plate onto the axle, and then pull this across and put it to one side. And then when we fit the new axle, we can just slot it over the new stub axle, which is integral to the axle. You can't buy Ifor Williams stub axles on their own separately. You've got to buy a complete axle, which is a real shame. But it does standardise, you know, the setup, and it then doesn't rely on somebody's pigeon shit welding holding a stub axle on. So I understand why they've done it. Okay, 10mm Allen key, I believe, for those. Now you've seen me pull this off before, so I'm just going to rattle through. It's on the previous videos. These are all held in with thread lock, by the way. Coolio. Nice. Pretty tight. I think we did them to 80 Newton meters, I think those. Okay, now I did zip tie the brake cables to the axle and put some hose pipe or some kind of rubber pipe over the outside of them just to stop them rubbing on the axles. I'm going to have to go underneath and cut that cable tie to get enough freement, that's a new word, enough free play on that cable to be able to pull that off the end of the stub axle. And then we can take a really close look, once its axle's out, at the condition of these threads, because the photos that I took last time round, and you can feel it, they're not very happy at all. There we go. Perfect. Plenty of movement now. There we go. Perfect. We'll just leave that down there. Just get this out of the way safely. I don't like it resting on the shoes. Is it going to be long enough? Oh, it is. Perfect. That'll do nicely. Okay, I'm going to do the same, exactly the same to the other side off camera, and then we're going to attack these U-bolts. Now, I don't have any spare U-bolts. I know, Andy, why didn't you pick up U-bolts while you were down there? Well, I spent a lot on this trailer. I know it's a stupid decision to make, and maybe I should have picked up, new U-bolts as well. But I'm pretty confident they're going to come off. When we brought this trailer to New Zealand from the UK 16 years ago, we had to remove the axles at that point and the leaf springs, and we posted the axle down the side of our Nissan Patrol that was in the container. There was just enough room to get just the bed of the trailer in, and then we had to reassemble the trailer when we got to New Zealand to put everything on it to then empty the container. But that's a whole nother story. So I'm going to clean the crap out of those threads with the wire brush, and I'm going to use some Forge S411 Black Magic just to make sure that the threads are not going to pick up. And I'm pretty confident they're I think they're an M10, obviously a metric M10 thread. So I'll be putting new nylocks on when we refit the U-bolts. Very important, people, unless you've got lock nuts on there as well. On the Jeeps in the UK, we used to use a full-size nut and then a half-size nut as a lock nut, and that worked really, really well. And they could be reused, which was nice. Okay, so I'm going to clamber underneath the trailer and start cleaning off these U-bolt threads, and then we'll see if they come undone. Hopefully there's no bent ones. I do remember the trailer grounding out one day with a car on it, on a curb. And I was thinking, no, the U-bolts! they actually look to be in really good nick. I mean, that's no guarantees, but they do. To be fair, I was expecting to be in much worse condition, especially given all the gravel roads that I've been down. I reckon that'll do. Okay, now for some magic sauce. Which YouTube channel's that come from? Yeah, put it in the comments. I think that'll do. Right. What is it, a 19? Maybe. What is that? Don't like the look of that thing. Okay. Here we go. Yes, they are a 19. That's cracked off nicely. That's cracked off nicely. That's good. Oh yeah. Looking pretty good. Right. Okay, time for an impact wrench. Right. And there's washers, which is good. That's one. Two. Three. Four. Ooh, battery's charged up. We like that. Now, notice the position of the bump stop. I think one of the bump stops is missing on this trailer. Should have got one of those as well, shouldn't I? Right. When you're knocking the U-bolts out, try and do it evenly. Otherwise it can catch the threads on the base plate. There we go, one bump stop. Nice. Okay, the axle now should be, there we go, free on the spring. That was easy. So I may have just jinxed it, right? Because I just said it was easy. I've still got one more side to go. Wish me luck. And the trick with this job is to try and undo the least number of bolts possible. There's no need to remove the leaf springs from the trailer, which we've already done in the previous video because we replaced the bushes down the forward end of the spring. They were pretty bad actually. And I do carry those in stock now, which is good. Never expected to have to replace an axle though, to be perfectly honest. This cleaning up and getting all the grit out of the threads is really important. It's well worth spending a little bit more time just making sure that they're clean. You know, that grit acts as an abrasive and it makes it a lot harder to undo the nut. But it also wears the threads. And the last thing you want is a U-bolt to fail. On this trailer, the axle sits on top of the spring, which means that all the weight is being held by the U-bolts. On some trailers, the axle sits underneath the spring, and then the U-bolts really are only just locating the axle on the spring, and not really carrying the weight. They're under a lot less stress on this trailer, and we've had it overloaded. Back in the UK we used to really overload it, and when we drove through Europe it was about a ton overweight. That's about 1,000 kgs overweight, so poor little trailer. Come about there actually. Cool. Okay. Go to the magic stuff. Lovely. Okay. Let's get them cracked off again. Because I'm not lying on the ground this time. Be more refined. There we go. That's all four. Super job. Okay. Nice. Oh yeah. Come on, little nut. Thank you. That's 2 washers, 2 nuts, 1 more U-bolt to go. Is this last one going to be the problem child? No, we've done it. God damn it, get out. Okay. U-bolt time. That's 1. Is that going to come up? Yes. Perfect. And a bump stop. Brilliant. Okay, axle off the spring. Oh yes, I like it. Okay, so we just roll the axle across like that. Over the spring on the other side. Come on. Oh, there we go. Okay, so a close-up, as I promised, of these threads. I did take some photos and they're in the last video. But if you're on the inner 2 threads, which are not actually used, you can feel the peaks are nice and sharp, whereas as you run your finger across, first of all, the height of the peaks changes. It's more like a wave, which tells you that the threads here especially are very worn indeed. And you can see all the damage, there's marks and stuff. It's definitely in a bad way. The good thing is it held for that one particular job that I had to do. I had no choice. I didn't want to be using the big trailer for what I was doing. It would be stupid. But yeah, it is junk. There's no way I'd risk that on the road again, especially without putting that extra metal bar. This one here, look, which was super good. It made all the difference. Just gave me peace of mind when I was towing the trailer that I wasn't going to lose a wheel or cause, you know, any kind of hazard on the road. I didn't want to injure somebody. That would be really bad. I mean, a flying wheel coming off your trailer, you know, at 100 k's an hour could cause a serious problem, couldn't it? So there you go. That's what it looks like, and it's terrible. We'll compare that now to a known good thread at the other end of the axle. There you go. So it's pretty obvious the difference. If you look at the mat, the red background here, you can see some really nice sharp peaks on those threads, and that's how it should be. This thread is in perfect condition, which is great. It's a shame his friend at the other end of the axle isn't. It would have saved me a lot of work. Now, don't think for 1 minute that that axle is going to get scrapped. It isn't. I'm going to do a separate video on removing the damaged stub axle from the box section. I want to see how it's held in. I also want to make basically have a new stub axle made, and I've got just the person in mind for that. And I'll then be making a jig to bolt to the good end of the axle. I'll design it on that end. That'll get all the alignment correct, and then I can fit that jig to the end that we're fixing, and that will make sure that the new stub axle is parallel and centered to the box section. And that way I know for sure I'm not going to have a wonky wheel at the end of it. Anyway, that's a video for in the future, because I want to keep that axle as a spare axle on the shelf just in case I have the same problem again, where one of these threads galls up. And then I can go, you know what? There's a spare axle. We can chuck it straight on and keep on trucking, because this trailer on Monday morning has to go all the way to Gisborne with an ROV, down to Wairoa on the coast, about, I don't know, 2.5 hours drive south of Gisborne. And then from there, almost to Napier, hang a right, back to Taupo, and then back home. It's about 750 kilometres. So I've got to get it right. And if we hadn't got this new axle, would I have taken the trailer as it was, with the fail-safe system in place, all that way with the vehicle on? Probably not. I wouldn't have been happy, because I've been travelling through some pretty, back and beyond places, and if I had a failure, I'd be screwed. Anyway, that's my problem. Let me get all the packaging off the new axle. We'll take a quick look, and then we'll make a start putting it back on. Now, this axle's come from Atlas Trailers, who are the bona fide authorised Ifor Williams dealer in the South Island of New Zealand. And man, they have a massive stock of parts. Yet again, Suzie and the team down there have saved the day for me. So grateful. Right, that should come off there, hopefully. There we go. Okay. Now, I don't want to score the bearing surface of the threads. I'll be a bit careful with this. And I'll get Mrs. Mechanic to paint the axle once it's in situ. She doesn't know about that yet. There we go. Okay, lift it up. He's like a child. Okay. Oh, yes. It better be the right one. I think it is. Okay, this is the moment of truth. Brake backing plate flange. So ruler on there, and we're about 117 millimeters. Let's go and check it on the old axle. Now, Suzie did say that there are a couple of different axle types on these trailers over the years, but I did give her the chassis number, so I'm pretty confident she's got it right. Obviously, it's a little bit mutilated, but yeah, 117 looks good. All right, and I'm pretty sure, by the looks of it, the surface where the bearing sits, which is here, is the same diameter. It looks bang on. We'll know when we put the hub on anyway, won't we? Don't want any blood today, thank you. Excellent. Yes. Perfect. That was even better. Okay, I've got the rest of this tape to take off. I'm not going to fit an axle covered in tape. That's not going to happen, is it? Right. While I do this, here's a word from Tool Girl Holly. Holly, over to you.
Now then, crew, Tool Girl Holly here. Don't miss the next live stream, 8:30 AM Sunday.
Okay, there's the axle, all cleaned up, all the tape removed, ready to go. Now, I have noticed something, if I just roll it over. Here we go, look. These are the pads that sit onto the springs, and this one here there's quite a few paint blobs and stuff. Not happy with that. Go down this end, this one's even worse. If I just get the camera just right for you, you can see there's a big blob just round there and over here as well. And it's absolutely critical that these sit nice and flat onto the leaf springs, and there's no chance of them sort of chafing or reducing in thickness, because that will cause the U-bolts to come loose. So I'll just get a flap disc and just gingerly clean that up, and I think we'll be all good to go. Ooh, this one's really bad down here. That is so much better. I'll give them a quick lick of paint, and while it's drying, I'll have a coffee. Bit of Forge primer will do the trick. Excellent. I'm back, and it was a great coffee, thanks for asking. Now, before we reassemble, need to clean up the threads on these U-bolts. They're not damaged in any way. I've had a good look at them, but they need wire brush, and I'll run a dye down them as well, just to make sure everything goes back as planned. Okie dokie. Doesn't take too long, and it makes life a lot easier further down the line. Plus, you get to have a good look at the threads. Make sure there's no damage. There's nothing worse than winding a brand new nut onto threads that have got dirt trapped in the valleys. There we go. I'm waiting for something to go wrong with this job because this little trailer's bitten me so many times recently. I'm not taking any chances. Don't forget, these U-bolts are 17 years old. Very good quality, to be fair. And we used to have some U-bolts made in the UK by Beezer Springs in Scarborough. And they're a bit hit and miss, to be honest. They weren't particularly good. Right, a bit of cutting foam. And we've got the M12 by, was it 1.25 already in. I've had to take the little handles off because obviously being a U-bolt. And it should go on pretty easy. The trick's to make sure you start it correctly. You don't want to be damaging the good threads that are there. But this will just clean out those threads really well and get rid of any dirt. Right, almost there, a couple more turns. There we go. I imagine when these were made new, there would have been some galvanizing in the threads. That's probably why it's a little bit tighter to get off. Poor little trailer. It's had a hard life. I reckon it's done at least 150,000 kilometers now. Okay, so once your thread's done, you can check it by using a normal nut, not a nylock. And we'll just get it started on the threads properly. There we go, look. Brilliant. That's excellent. And to check for wear on the threads, you want to lift the nut up and down. And there's no movement. That's really, really good. Right, I'll get the other side done. And then we'll have to clean up the little bolts, the cap heads that hold the backing plate to the axle. Because remember, they're full of thread lock. Right, that's all the U-bolts done. Perfect. Now, these are also M12, which is the same die, which is great. Oh, by the way, these are aluminium jaws, so if it goes flying out, you'll know why. Okay. Right, put my little handles back on, make life a bit easier. And all we're doing here really is cleaning out the old thread lock. And a bit of rust, because there was a bit of rust on the, especially on the end threads, because they protrude through the threads on the axle a little bit. There we go. That way at least we'll get a true torque when we tighten them up. Okay, stick a nut down. I always run a nut down just to be sure. Oh, that's ideal. Nice. That's one. 7 more to go. But it doesn't take long, you know, when you get there. Once you get set up, and then you know that the whole thing's going to go together correctly. And if you have a problem bolt, you know, you can find one before you start. And if you haven't got one, well, you know you're going to have a problem. No smoking. Excellent. Now, just one last thing to do before we pop that new axle onto the leaf springs, drop in the U-bolts and bolt the whole thing up. And that's on top of the leaf springs where the axle sits. We need to give it a wire brush to make sure there's no dirt that's going to get trapped between the axle and the leaf spring. If you had a few little rocks in there and stuff, you know, they're going to squash down over time and turn to dust. And then, of course, you know, the whole thing moves a bit and you lose some of the tension on the U-bolts, which is a very bad thing. U-bolts coming loose is a big problem because it wears the eye in the axle, the locating hole that we'll see in a minute. You can overlay that. It becomes a real problem trying to keep the axle in the right place. Even with tight U-bolts, they just seem to keep working loose again. So we need to do the top of the leaf spring and the underside where the base plate fits as well. Make sure you get all the dirt from around the side of this little pin, and that's the locating pin that locks into the axle. Excellent. That's perfect. Same on the other side then. This side's not quite as bad actually. It's always a good time when you've got the axle out to check your leaf spring for any kind of cracks. Where this pin is in the middle, this is a weak point in the spring, and if the U-bolts have been loose at any time, it can cause this part of the spring to flex. You know, as the suspension goes up and down, and it'll cause the spring to crack and sometimes fail. Okay, time for the new axle. Woohoo! Now you can clearly see on the underside of the axle's tilted on its side for now, that's the locating hole in the mount plate that's welded to the axle, and that's the pin on the spring. And it's absolutely critical, it should go without saying really, you've got to get the pin in the hole on both sides before you put any U-bolts on and tighten them up. Otherwise you can cause some damage and your axle won't be properly located. So just make sure you've got no gap whatsoever on either side of the spring mount on the axle, and that one dropped in perfectly. You can see on this side we're still sat on the pin, it hasn't quite located, so I'm just going to move the axle across a little bit. There we go. Excellent. Right, U-bolts and bump stop. We'll do this side while we're here. Okay, one bump stop, and we've got the U-bolts coming down. 1, 2, and now we need a base plate. Okay, one base plate. I'll stick it on there for now. And we need the new nuts and the washers. Okay, so if you grab your base plate, and again, just make sure you've got no big chunks of dirt and stuff stuck on the underside. That'll do. That's pretty good, isn't it? Okay, now we just thread that through the U-bolts. Sometimes not as easy as you hope. There we go, she's going now. One little trick is to hold the base plate against the spring and then just give the U-bolts a bit of a tap through with a magic hammer. Make sure they go through parallel. You don't want to try and do one side and then the other. There we go, that's enough. Again, just give your threads, make sure there's no dirt in those threads that's got picked up as they've gone through. Doesn't need to be all the way through because the nuts will solve that problem for us. Okay, new nylock and washer. The washer's the original. No need to replace that. And this is where all that prep time really comes in, because things are just so much easier now. You're not fighting it all the time. There we go. So just holding the U-bolts and the bump stop all in place, we're just going to bring these up a little bit. Just a bit at a time. It's important that we do them up evenly, and everything will align properly then. Excellent. I will be giving these a final torque, not particularly a torque setting, but I'm going to tighten them up until I feel they're about right. It's an M12 thread, so we can check online to see what the maximum torque this thread should be able to cope with, and we need to make sure we don't exceed that because we don't want to damage the threads or break a U-bolt for that matter. Right, I'll go and do the same thing on the other side, then I'll come back and we'll torque these up. Now, before you tighten up U-bolts, it's very important to make sure that both the bolts are parallel. In this particular case, the bump stop has got these little protrusions at the end to hug in the U-bolts and hold them in place, but you may not have that. So make sure that they are parallel, because the last thing you want is a U-bolt sat over here somewhere and torquing it down, and then through use it'll migrate across to being vertical, and then you'll find it's loose. So always double check the position of the U-bolts, make sure it's correct. Now these are an M12. The maximum torque of an 8.8 grade nut and bolt, which this is an 8.8 nut, is 99.8 Newton meters. I'm going to do them at 95. I think that's plenty tight enough for this job. Now position yourself so that your torque wrench has always been pulled towards you. You'll find it a lot easier then. Now again, just go around and just keep torquing them up or tightening them up evenly. Don't do diagonals. I always find to do one U-bolt and then the other gets you a more balanced sort of effect on them. We've not gone click yet. That's one. I'm going to back that off to 90. I don't like that at all. There we go, 90. I need to use this trailer on Monday and I've got no spares. Wow. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. Cool. I wasn't worried at all. I was. Right, let's go and do the other side. Right, we're still set at 90 Newton meters, which I think is plenty for this particular job. I wonder what the actual factory setting is, because I can't find out. There's very little information on these. And to be fair, normally when I'm tightening U-bolts up, I do it by feel. I don't do it by an actual torque setting. but I can't portray feel on a video, can I? So I think it's fair to try and give you some kind of a torque setting. I mean, it's carrying a fair load. There's, you know, essentially it's a 2-ton trailer, so there's a ton on each axle. There's 500 kgs of force pushing up when the trailer's fully loaded. And then when you hit a pothole or something on the road, the force is momentarily because it shocks the axle upwards because of the impact. There we go, that's that one. Don't break, don't break, don't break. Phew. Done. Good job. Always remember to back your torque wrench off. A number of times I walk into workshops and see torque wrenches still wound up to a torque and they've gone off for a T-brake. It's like, really? Bad mechanic. That'll do lovely. Well, I'm pleased that bit's done. You may decide not to go quite so high on the torque, but I felt pretty good actually. 95, I didn't feel good. I think it was too close to the limit. But 90, happy with that. You might go for 85, I don't know. Tightening up U-bolts is a lot more about the feel than it is an actual torque setting, just like setting preload on steering head bearings and stuff. Everyone's a little bit different. Now, next job is to refit the drum brake backing plates. And that's where we get to use these little bolts. These are M12 as well. I'm going to set these to 85, not 90. I don't think they need to be that tight. But saying that, some of them were very tight taking them out. But there's 4 of them holding the backing plate on. That's ample. 85 Newton meters will do the trick. Oh, gets your knees. Right, we'll have rid of that. Okay, so this will now just drop over the stub axle and into position. You can't really get it wrong. Cable goes to the rear of the axle. Now I'm just using blue Loctite, sorry, thread lock. Shouldn't you? Loctite's a brand, Andy. Thread lock. Now don't go mad. You don't need tons. Okay. Way! Don't fall over, mister. Right, we'll stick him in there. Start the threads manually. Oh, look at that now, they go in so easy. Not all the way in. Right, number 2. Bit of a wipe. Get your thumbnail into the threads, wind it out. Look at all that, you see? Perfect. And again, a bit more thread lock. So yes, thread lock. You got it right this time, Andy. Jeez. That'll do. No more than that. Right, we'll stick him up that one. Nice. I think you get the idea. Right, again, we'll just put my thumbnail at the start of the threads there and just wind it out, just to make sure that those threads are nice and clean and free of any kind of debris, because the threads are in the axle and we don't want to damage any of those, do we? Right, there we go. And again, a bit of thread lock. That'll do nicely. Less is more. Honestly, those bolts have never gone in as well as that. They've always been a bit notchy. Oh, hang on, got to clean it. Jeez, Andy. I'm not rushing. I'm just going to crack on because I know you want this video to be finished so you can go and swap your axle. I do find the Ifor Williams axles, just the running gear, everything about them is super well built. There we go. Okay, last one going in. Try not to get too many fingers on the camera for you. Oh, that one's a bit tight. Oh, I don't like that. What's going on there? And we know it's not the bolt. Just slapping that one off there. It might just be that the backing plate needs a bit of a jiggle. Because there is a little bit of movement you can see on the backing plate. There we go, that's going in much better now. Perfect. Right, we said 85 Newton meters, didn't we? I think it's ample for these. Oh, somebody's out playing his airplane. Little biplane. Right, 80. 85, lock. Okay, here we go. I don't like that one. That's getting tight before it's bottomed out. I might need to clear the threads out in the axle, I think. Just don't like it. Alright, I'm going to take these back out and just clean that one up. Yes, I will back the torque wrench off, don't panic. That's not the bolt. We know the bolt was bang on. It's an issue with the actual axle. I've got an M10 tap, so we're all good. Okay, just pull that back off and out of the way. And it's that one that's a bit of an issue. Right. Might be a bit of welding splatter or something, I don't know. We'll check it out. Okie dokie. Well, my normal tap holder wouldn't work because obviously the stub axle's so long, so I have constructed this. Yes, it was a ratchet style one for taps, and it had a problem, so we just welded it up many years ago. But it still sort of, you know, does some job, and it might get us out of trouble today. So we'll chuck a bit of that in there. I'm just going to start that. It wasn't too bad to start off with, so we should be able to get it to start pretty easily. There we go. And you get this kind of thing every now and again. It's important to be aware. There you go. Like, I can feel it now. It's like a burr. It's just catching on. So we'll just wind that through. So it's important that you're aware of this kind of stuff, and that you just know to stop. You know, just clean it up. And while I'm here, I'll probably do all four of them now, and then the other side as well, just to be on the safe side, because I just can't afford to have this trailer not operational on Monday. Better to be safe than sorry, Andy. There we go. There is a little bit of swarf in there. Okay, let's try the bolt. Where's my screwdriver thing? There we go. You see, look? Perfect now. That's what we need. Good job. That'll need another clean. Okay, the tool. I'll clean all these out with brake cleaner before we go any further as well. So I find that brake cleaner is really good for some cleaning out, you know, the old bits of swarf and stuff from taps and dies. Makes it so much easier. Right, I'll do this one down here next. Yes. That's pretty good, isn't it? Do it finger tight all the way through. Yep, that one's fine. Ooh, we got an email. Nice. Okay, that's that one. See, still a little bit of swarf there. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Luckily, they're really meaty threads of these. There's a lot of depth to this plate. Would you be able to get a knot on the back? You wouldn't actually. So there's no plan B if this thread strips out. Right, that one's good. That one's very good actually. Okay, and then we'll just do steady. There we go. Let's do the last one. So if you are fitting a new Ifor Williams axle, I would suggest, if you have the right size tab, and you need to double check it is the right size tab, just to clean these out before you fit the axle, just to be on the safe side. Because if I hadn't have stopped, we might be in the same position we were before with a knackered thread. Okay, they're all good. Give them a clean out, a brake cleaner, and then we'll let that dry. Right, said Fred, we'll have another go. Nothing like doing things twice, is there? While I was, sorry, I've got the camera is running out of charge. I didn't get home till late last night, and I forgot to put my camera on charge, even though I knew I was going to be filming today. So my apologies. Right, everything's been cleaned out. We'll do the thread lock thing all over again. And hopefully we'll be all good to go. While I was waiting for the camera to charge up, I had, oh look at that, you see, it's so much better now. I've cleaned out the threads on all four on the other end of the axle as well. And believe it or not, there was one of those that was a bit iffy as well. It had some, there was a bit of resistance there. Obviously there was something in the threads that shouldn't have been there. So it was good to, it was really good to do that actually. There we go, that one's alright. Okay, and I also cleaned up the bolt again with the die. It was a little bit damaged at the end of the thread, so we did well to stop when we did. But it came back to life okay, so we're alright there. Because I don't have any spare of these cap heads, unfortunately. So yes, my advice would be to you, if you got this job to do, is do clean out those threads before you fit the axle. You might find some debris in there. Okay, they're all in. All we have to do now is torque it up. So we said 85, didn't we? Right, torque wrench is set. Here we go. Do it up mode, please, Mr. Young. That's that one. We'll do these ones opposites. That's that one. And one more. Excellent stuff. Right, next job is to put the hub back on. I'm just going to put a smear of grease on this surface here. Not on the threads, just on this surface here. Okay, just a little bit. We don't want to go mad. So what we don't want to do is have any grease end up on the brake shoes. That would be really bad. There we go. That'll do me, grommet. Okay, so next job is the hub. And this hub has been on and off more times than I've had hot dinners. Now we don't need to worry about brake adjustment because we've not altered that in any way. Okay, hub is on. We need a new nut. A new stake nut, as Ifor Williams call it. Now, it is very important that you use a new stake nut each time. The last thing you want to do is risk damaging the threads on the end of your stub axle. And that's how they should go on. Oh, look at that. So nice. Okay, now that'll go a lot further on than that. It'll be just beyond the surface of the end of the stub axle. And the torque setting is 350 Newton meters. Okay, we'll just wind it down until it's about snug. It's nice and easy. It's not galling up, don't worry. I mean, I might even be able to do it by hand, okay? Let's give it a go. Oh yes, see, it's nice and free. There we go, look. Perfect. There you go. That's about down the bottom now, so I'll give it a little snug with this. There we go. And we'll go and find the big torque wrench. Now, before we tighten this up, you need to put a trolley jack underneath the leaf spring, underneath the base plate, to stop this being pulled down when you're trying to torque it up. It makes it much easier, to be fair. Okay, here we go. 350 Newton meters. It's pretty tight. Right, nut staking division is ready. So with your punch, just align it on the side like that, and then we're going to go tappy tap tap, and that gives it a nice round curve into the round or the concave section here that's in the end of the stub axle. What we don't want to do is crack the steel. It's quite hard steel and it does crack, especially if you try and use it twice. See, it's just starting to deform now. Yep, we're about halfway there. Perfect. That will do brilliantly for that side. That's all it needs. Now, of course, this side's a bit harder for me because I'm right-handed. Oh yes, nice. Okay, this side is done. We'll just stick the hubcap back on. Brilliant. Ifor Williams. Top trailers. Oh, not a sponsor, by the way, but Ifor Williams, if you do want to sponsor me, give me a call. Now, according to Ifor Williams, this is some of the instructions that came when you're replacing brake shoes, adjusting brakes. You've seen this in the previous video. It says here that the wheel bolts, the final torque needs to be 110 Newton meters. It's pretty tight. You need to get it right. You don't want the wheels falling off. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, it's lined up as well. How good is that? I hate wheel bolts, by the way. I think they're an absolute pain in the ass. A lot of French cars seem to have wheel bolts. Japanese cars have wheel nuts. I just don't like the idea that the threads that are in the drum can wear out. Whereas when it's a stud, you just replace the stud, right? Lovely jubbly. These wheel caps, they're always loose. It's weird. I've only ever lost one, but you know, I thought they'd be a bit tighter than that. Right, I'm going to get the other side of the trailer put back together. There's no need to film that, Andy. We've already seen you do it once. You are correct. Plus, it gives the phone a chance to charge up because it's getting pretty flat. Now we've got 8 more threads to potentially strip now, haven't we? Oh, God. Right, 110 Newton meters. That one. Oh, come back socket. Right, double check. Ooh. It's very annoying these sockets fall off like that. There we go. Right, 4 more to go. 3, 2, 1. Last one. Excellent. Oh, done. So there you go, we fitted a brand new axle to an Ifor Williams trailer. Ifor Williams trailers are made in Wales, and I think they're pretty damn good, to be perfectly honest. I've had lots of Ifor Williams trailers over the years, and this is the first axle I have ever had to replace. Yeah, this little trailer's worked very, very hard compared to the other ones that we had in the UK, but even so, I think it's really good value for money. I think they're a good, strong, durable trailer. Anyway, so in this video, we covered a few tips and tricks. U-bolt torque setting, I dumbed it down to 90 Newton meters. I think that was plenty, to be perfectly honest. The spec, not the Ifor Williams spec, but the spec for an M12 bolt is 99.8 Newton meters. So we weren't too far off. I didn't want to push it any harder than that. As regards the bolts that retain the backing plate to the axle, just watch out, make sure you clean those threads out before you fit the new axle. I didn't, I had to do it in situ, it would have been a lot easier on the bench. And we did those at 85 Newton meters. Now, the stake nuts that hold the hub onto the stub axle need to be at 350 Newton meters. No exceptions, and don't forget to stake the nut. Important, you don't want the wheel falling off. Now, on this video, we didn't have to adjust the brakes. We made no changes to the brakes whatsoever. If you need to know how to adjust brakes and fit new brake shoes and stuff, there are other videos on my channel covering that on the Ifor Williams trailers. And as time goes on, there'll be more and more videos covering different repairs. Now, if you're not subscribed to this channel, why not click on subscribe, ring the bell, and then YouTube will send you a notification as and when I upload any new videos. You'll also find me on Facebook as Andy Mechanic, and you can email me if you like, andymechanic@live.co.uk, and I'll do my very best to get back to you. Now, if you've had any experiences with Ifor Williams trailers, problems, or you sing their praises, or any stories really, why not put them in the comments, let other people read all about them, because when I brought this trailer to New Zealand, just over 16 years ago, 16 and a half years ago now, I think it was, something like that, 15 and a half, a long time ago. When it came in through the port and I had to go through, get the vehicle registered and that kind of thing, everybody that looked at it was like, what is it? Who made that? We've seen nothing like it before. Ifor Williams hadn't made it to New Zealand. That was one of the very first Ifor Williams trailers to come to this country. And compared to the New Zealand trailers, they are massively over-engineered. Super strong. I mean, at the end of the day, they're designed for farmers who will just look at the payload and go, really? We'll double that. You know who you are. I've seen what farmers tow behind their Land Rovers and stuff. And, well, they're a law unto themselves. Some of them are. They're not all the same, but, we can get a couple of extra bales on. Why not? And I'm not one to talk. I have been known to overload trailers in the past, so I'm sure we all have. But they put up with it. They're super strong, and I like the design. I like the thought behind how they've done everything. I mean, the stub axles are massive compared to the trailers here. There must be 3 times the section of steel on one of these stub axles to what you get on a New Zealand stub axle kit, Anyway, we digress. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do that through Patreon and become a patron. That way you can donate an amount either one-off or each month, and for as long as you want, and then you can just stop it whenever you like. There's all sorts of stuff on Patreon. There's loads of photos, lots of archive stuff on there that you'll gain access to if you pay, I think it's $5 to gain access to that. Or you can donate through PayPal. Now, if you do decide to use the PayPal, it's the same email address, andymechanic@live.co.uk, but don't click on donation. PayPal changed things in the last couple of years, where now, to receive a donation, I have to be a registered charity, and I'm not a registered charity. I'm not a charity. I'm a YouTube channel, right? That's what I do, YouTube stuff. So you need to send it as a payment, and you know, a couple of bucks goes a long way. Really does. And all those that have sent, you know, hard cash over the years, thank you very much. It really has helped to grow the channel and to allow me to do, you know, such a wide variety of videos. And there's loads more to come. There's loads in the can that I've not had a chance to edit up yet, so they'll be all coming out over the next few weeks. If you want to support the channel in a different way, then you can send something to my PO Box, which is PO Box 6265, Victoria Street West, and that's Auckland, New Zealand, and the postcode is 1142. That address is down in the description, so don't panic to go and grab a pen and paper and have to rewind the video. That was old school, wasn't it? Rewind. What else? One more thing, got to think about it. I'm going to have to edit this bit now. Yes. If you don't want to do that, another way that you can support the channel is to share one of the videos. Stick it on your social media, stick a link, and then a few more people will get exposed to the channel. And who knows, there may be one or two videos on here that are helpful to them as well. Okay, crew, I've got a lot of tidying up to do. I've got an ROV to load onto this trailer now. Oh, don't forget, Andy, you've got 2 cable ties to put back on the new axle. And Mrs. Mechanic's going to have to give it a paint tomorrow. So maybe I'll put the cable ties on tomorrow after she's painted it with the ROV on it. It doesn't matter, does it? She's quite small. She can clamber underneath the trailer without even jacking it up. It's fantastic. You just send her under with a paintbrush and a pot of paint. Half an hour later she comes out covered in paint, and the axle's all painted, and the concrete, and probably the dog as well. Okay, crew, well, that's enough from me. Heaps of tidying up to do. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Over and out. And you get the flip again.
Oh!
Yes.